Well, hello. I am Kelly Hatcher, and I am the CEO and owner of New Day Family Recovery. And I am here today to talk to you guys about working with an anxiety disorder. And before we start anything, I just want to say when you hear the word disorder, it makes me cringe. I dislike that word tremendously. And I just want to share with you that when things are in order, things are going normally. The word dis just basically means things aren't working the way they should. It's not a bad thing. It really isn't. So let's dive in. Let's learn a little bit more about anxiety and maybe some tools that can help you working with your anxiety. So here we go. We're going to start right here. What is anxiety? Well, first off, it's not a bad thing. Anxiety is basically our body's way. It's a natural response to let us know something stressful is happening and it's okay. When anxiety starts to become a nuisance or a nightmare in your life is when you have that fear that won't go away. It's happening too often. It's happening all the time. That's when anxiety becomes an anxiety issue. But it's sometimes just a way that it's our body's letting us know, hey, something's not right here. Danger. It's kind of that danger, Will Robinson. It's not a bad thing. So, right now, if you are someone that is dealing with anxiety, where are you? Like, where are you on the scale of anxiety in your day today? Just today, your emotions, your feelings, where's your brain? One would be that my little smiley face. It's a one or a two that it's a good day. I'm feeling like I can be here. I can watch this video with you, Kel. I've got this. Three, four, maybe you're getting a little agitated. Five, you're like, can't believe I'm really in this class right now. Why am I watching this? I'm not really sure. And then, that seven, eight is where I need to use the bathroom. My hands are palmy, sweaty, and I am just getting more and more agitated. Or a 10, you're off the charts. Your stuff is you're not even in this class. You're not even paying attention right now. You're gone. It's okay. It's okay. No matter where you are, I understand. I struggled with anxiety as well, and I've been in all of these areas for the last few years, more frequently, obviously, with the pandemic. Um, so, first off, when you hear the word anxiety, a lot of people, the myths are, oh, it's genetics. My mom had this. I definitely have it because my mom has it. You could also be that, oh, you're such a worry wart. Let it go, let it go. You're such an exaggerator. You are so exaggerating that your heart feels like it's blowing out of your chest. Let me tell you, anxiety is real and it is very powerful and it increases our heart rate. Our brains are overstimulated and it is freaking us out. And the more things we're dealing with in our own personal lives, the more stress that comes in, then it increases our anxiety. So I've been doing a lot of research lately, and there is this Dr. John Deloney that I'm really enjoying him. He works with Dave Ramsey, and so I've been listening to a lot of his podcast and listening to about how his analogy on anxiety relates, and it makes sense to me. So I'm just going to share this scenario. So let's pretend it's Thanksgiving and your husband has said, hey, I just shared with our entire family that you get to make Thanksgiving dinner and nobody's going to bring anything. You're going to make it all. And I know the oven's not working really well, and I know we only have that one plug, but you've got this. You've got it. Oh, and there's going to be 25 people that are going to come. So now you have extension cords in this one little plug. You've got the crock pot going, you've got the blender going, you've got the mixer going, maybe you have a rice cooker. You've got all of these plugs going. The turkey's cooking, but it's not really cooking good. And now your kids come in screaming and yelling, and one just gave another one a bloody nose. And then your husband comes in and says, oh my gosh, the meal plan for the neighbor whose husband just passed away, they're not having dinner tonight. So can you make them dinner too? And here comes the dog who's been in the mud, and he's like all over the house and everything's muddy. Then all of a sudden, the smoke alarm goes off in the kitchen because everything is burning, everything's on fire. Take that analogy where my heart right now is already going, holy chowder. Take that smoke alarm that now is beeping and annoying the crap out of you. That smoke alarm is your anxiety. The smoke alarm is a warning. It's telling us, hey, things are happening in your kitchen, things are on fire. The smoke alarm is not your problem. Anxiety is not your problem. What is happening is everything else around you. We call that our ecosystem. It's kind of like a biome. You're in this, everything that is around you is your ecosystem. Your kids, your husband, your family, your dogs, your job, the pandemic, everything around us is what is creating the smoke alarm to go off. So take that smoke alarm as your anxiety, and understanding that it might kind of help that it's just the thoughts of everything going around in our head. Our thoughts are creating our anxiety. So let's kind of keep moving on so I can show you some tools to get us in here. If that just created anxiety, maybe you're this girl right now and everything is kind of a blur. Those are the anxiety attacks, the panic attacks, the test taking anxiety, all of these anxieties. You feel like things are exploding. I know I just had one a few nights ago and it lasted a few minutes, but it can last up to 30 minutes. But know that when you have an anxiety attack, the good news is people think I'm going to die. And I've been there. I truly have felt I'm going to die. I can't breathe and I think I may die. Knowing that if you pass out, you're probably not going to pass out from anxiety because your blood pressure is so skyrocketing. And usually when you pass out, it's when you have very low blood pressure. But the fear of it in our head, it definitely makes us feel like we may be passing out. So some of the symptoms that may happen during an anxiety attack, you've got your heart rate, you can't breathe. Like even to try and take a deep breath, it feels like it's so tight and you can't do it. The fear, panic, sweaty palms, sweating coming down your face, paranoia, fatigue, insomnia, you can't sleep. Everything is like your brain is spinning at night. You also may have stomach issues where you may have the runs, you may have throwing up, like just nauseous, you can't eat. I love this picture. This picture to me, I have felt this picture. I've been this person before where you just feel like everything is going to blow in your head. So one of the questions I get a lot is, can children have anxiety? Well, I've been in education for the last 28 years as a school counselor and an educator. And I can tell you in the past 5 years, I have dealt with more students having anxiety. And I'm talking, I can deal with elementary students up to high school students. And the anxiety that some of these kids face in schools. And now let's add the pandemic and being at home. So the answer is yes, yes, your students can have anxiety. And if they are not talked to with tools to help them, it increasingly will get worse as they get older if they don't know how to deal with it and understand that their thoughts are creating a lot of these fears that they're dealing with. So we're going to go over some tools to help you with your little kiddos on this. There are many types of anxiety. So the word anxiety is kind of like your umbrella. You've got this big umbrella, but you may just have a generalized anxiety, you may have OCD, maybe panic disorder, social anxiety. A lot of people may, our military, we always talk about PTSD. It's a form of anxiety. One of the data that I collected was that, and I apologize if you're not in America, I just went off of the anxiety disorders in the United States, but there are over 40 million American adults. This isn't even our little kids that are struggling with anxiety. And this was like 2 years ago. This was the newest data. So now let's add the pandemic on top of this as well. It is affecting so many people in our world. It's very heart-wrenching to me to know how many people are dealing with this, and so many are not getting the help they need and truly deserve. And what happens is when you're feeling these anxious feelings, a lot of times we deal with them not in the proper way. Um, I myself have a son who struggles with addiction, and add anxiety with addiction, it's a bomb. It's a bomb that's going to blow, because what happens is when you're anxious and you don't know what to do with it, a lot of people, they either smoke weed, they drink, they do downers to numb those anxious feelings. And then you've got a lot of people that I'm seeing this a lot in the schools, of the self-harming, where kids are either cutting themselves. Some kids are pulling out their eyelashes, pulling out their eyebrows, pulling out their hair where they have holes in their scalp, because they're so anxious. And that is one of the triggers that happens, is you start harming yourself. And then you have isolation. Add the pandemic right now to isolation, and again, it's absolutely horrifying that so many people are so fearful to leave their house. This was before the pandemic, and now you add that to it, it's even worse. There are kids that won't even come out of their room unless their parents are wearing masks within their own home. So know that these are all obviously negative ways that we're starting to see more and more families dealing with anxiety, and how they're dealing with it in the negative way. So, is there a cure for anxiety? Um, Unfortunately, there's no cure, but with the proper tools, some tools may be medication, some may just be breathing techniques, and some may just be working with your thought processes. But there are ways to minimize the anxiety to almost to the point of being non-existent. But anxiety, it's because it's not considered a disease, there's no cure for it. It's just using the tools to help you manage it, to almost hopefully minimizing it, that you don't even have to worry about it. So we're going to go over a couple ways. Here's the biggest thing. As we go over all of these ways, know that don't sit there and go, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, because if you do all of them, one, you're going to burn out. You're like, holy chowder, this is way too much crap. Also, you're not going to know what works for you. If you're doing 5 different things at once, what is the one thing that's working, or the combination? Maybe there's 2 things that work for you. So my suggestion is always start off slow, work with something for like 30 days and see, do you feel any difference? Is it helping you? Is it making it worse? And then add on to that. And then you're going to be able to have some tools in your toolbox to help you with this anxiety. So in this picture right here, we've got 4 different scenarios that are absolutely, all 4 are proven to help with your anxiety. We're going to deep dive into some of these though. Okay. So let's take a look. We'll start with number 1, getting enough sleep. I can tell you, working with students and working now in family addiction, people, when you're anxious and your brains aren't turning off, you're not sleeping. This is the only time our body heals. We have to get sleep. Sleep here, the data that I've said, our research states that it's 7 to 8 hours. I can tell you, I get around 6 to 7 hours, but it is so important that our body gets into that REM sleep because that's when we start healing and feeling better. When you wake up and you've only had 2 or 3 hours, you know that feeling, that grogginess. Your brain's not, you're not fully alert. So one, get enough sleep. Two, on here it says morning routine, but I would actually change that to say morning and evening routine. It is so important that you have a routine that your body gets used to. The biggest thing that I saw that this is a challenge for me as well is the first 30 minutes of your morning, the last 30 minutes of your evening, you should not be on any form of a screen, whether it's a TV, whether it's your phone, well, whether it's your computer. Screen time should not exist the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes of your day. And I know so many people, as soon as they wake up, they grab their phone and they start scrolling, or they do that right before they go to bed and then they put it on their charger. Try to eliminate the amount of screen time the first 30 minutes. The other thing in the morning is I'm horrible at this. I haven't done this one yet, but we start with coffee. I used to have my coffee alarm is set. It perks at 6 a.m. I get up around 6:30. The very first thing I used to do is pour myself a big honking cup of caffeinated coffee. And after doing this research and realizing that obviously caffeine is a stimulant. So, right from the get go, and yes, it helps me wake up, but right from the get go to stimulate and get that brain going, it can create those anxious feelings. So, if you're drinking a cup of coffee, turning on the news in the past year, that is in itself is creating anxious feelings. So try to eliminate, especially the news right now, but try to eliminate maybe the first 30 minutes you spend with, I know I don't even come upstairs to pour a cup of coffee. What I do is I go take my dog for a walk for the first 30 minutes and I drink a big cup of water before I drink my caffeinated coffee because I still need my coffee. But listening to, as I'm doing this right now, I have meditation music playing in the background. Journaling, maybe you need time with God, whatever it may be, that first 30 minutes of your day, it should be just your time. It's almost like a self care, taking care of yourself. Okay, let's move on. Number three, the amount of media. So if you can just change how much time you're spending, I know on my Apple phone, it actually tells me I think it's Sunday, it pops up how much time I've been on my screen time. Try to eliminate that. I mean, start small. I wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm only going to do an hour a day," if you know it's not realistic. So maybe 30 minutes, taking away that amount. I know some people go cold turkey and say, I'm off of social media for a week. Try it if that works for you. Next one, exercise and diet. We all need to be eating healthy and getting our body moving. Even if it's just 20 minutes a day, getting those endorphins going. Again, our gut and our brain work together. And if you are not getting the endorphins going, our body produces hormones in our gut. And a lot of those hormones, the cortisol, the adrenaline, all of these could be very negative hormones, can create anxiety as well. So your gut and your brain work together. I mean, they're a perfect team. So if you're not taking care of it, I'm not saying don't eat junk, just don't eat junk all the time. Eating healthy meals, getting 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, and it could be just stretching, it could be just walking your dog for a mile, but getting your body moving, getting outside, getting fresh air. I mean, it is proven. I mean, I know when I'm filming this, I have a friend in Canada and she was telling me it was negative 50 degrees. Okay, well, you're probably not outside walking your dog, but they've even proven that if you watch like the Discovery Channel and the beautiful nature, just that for 20 minutes is actually letting your brain kind of breathe and get all of the good hormones going. So know that whatever it takes, try it. See if it helps for you. Okay, let's move on. Number 5, talking with someone. Right now, I'm sitting here talking to you on a video. This, if this is all you can do right now because of the pandemic, it's okay. I live, with my dog. That's not going to cut it. But texting a friend, that's not going to cut it either. If you can go face to face, if you are blessed enough to have someone living in your house, that face to face contact is so, so beneficial. Eye contact, the touching, I mean, it is so needed. With the pandemic, maybe just Zooming, that helps. I mean, you can be face to face. We all need that in our lives. Being secluded alone at home, not talking to people, it actually could create a high level of anxiety. Last one is deep breathing. Having breathing techniques that can help you when you start to feel the anxious feelings, taking in those breaths, because I truly do understand when you are in an anxiety attack, to breathe, it doesn't happen. Like you can't breathe. You're gasping trying to catch air. But if you can start feeling those triggers beforehand, two types of breathing that I have listed here are box breathing and also shaka breathing. For box breathing, it's basically you take in maybe 4 or 5 breaths. You get to choose this. You hold it, you let it go, you wait. So you would do it, let's say on a count of 5. You take in a breath for 5, you hold it for 5, you let it out for 5, you sit for 5. And you continue that for 3 to 5 minutes. Shaka breathing is kind of, I grew up in Hawaii. You got your shaka hand. You put one finger on one nostril, you breathe in through the other, do it for the count of 5 again. Hold it for 5. Now change it and breathe out the other nostril for 5. And you do that for 3 to 5 minutes. Deep breathing brings you to concentrate on your breathing and less on what the thoughts are going on in your head. So there's 6. And again, don't go crazy. Start with one of these. One action, maybe 2 if you're excited about it, but work on it for 30 days. See if you see any differences. So let's move on to some kiddo stuff. Like what can we do we're not going to do kids quite yet. Here are some ideas of when you can start seeing that smoke from your smoke alarm. The alarm maybe isn't gone off yet, which once it goes off, it's very challenging to work through any of these. But if it's just starting to smoke, meaning you're just feeling like, okay, I'm getting anxious, I can feel it, my hands are sweaty, I'm breathing a little bit, here are some tools that I want you to try and work on. The first one is writing down your thoughts. So right now, things are starting to happen. What's happening? Take into account, what are your thoughts? What are you feeling right now? So the reason I want you to do this is because as you're writing these thoughts, you're going to be able to see, are you exaggerating these or are these truths? So when you are writing these down, then you're making the list of, if you know you have, I'm going to click on here, lack of control, you can't control it, that's out of your control. Taking what is true, what is exaggerated, but what can you work on? So once you kind of eliminate some of the smoke, what is really in your control, then at that point, you can focus on that. Maybe start breathing and focusing on what do you have control of? What thoughts do you have control of? And then once you're breathing 3 to 5 minutes, then maybe if someone's home with you, go talk to them. If someone is not, call them, go Zoom with them. But remember, you can talk to people about this and just say, hey, I've got some thoughts going around in my head. Can I share them with you? Can we talk this through? Having those connections will help you. But if you're already in an anxiety attack, you won't be able to do these. Remember, when someone is dealing with an anxiety attack, that frontal cortex of their brain, it's offline. They're not thinking clearly. So what's happening is cortisol is running, adrenaline is running. They can't hear you. So when you say, take a deep breath, or you're fine, they're not hearing you. They're truly in the panic mode of anxiety. So when someone is that encased in anxiety, the human touch is so important. To be able to touch someone's face, to look at them in the eye, and to actually say, breathe, babe, breathe. You're okay. But you're touching them while you're saying that. You're breathing with them. You're giving them that eye contact, because in an attack, you can't do these things that are listed right here. You can't write down, you can't make a list, you can't breathe. So this is before you're just seeing the smoke. Things are starting to get a little out of your comfort zone. This is when you're going to be working on these areas. And the last one is working on a gratitude journal. Gratitude journals, it has been proven that people that feel grateful, people who write down what they're grateful for, actually are happier people. They have more energy, they have more positive thoughts going on in their brain. And this will actually help you bring it back into control of what are you grateful for? Writing it down, taking those negative thoughts out and adding things that you are grateful for. So these are great. Remember, when just the smoke is starting, the alarm hasn't gone off yet, and you can still have control and actually not let that alarm go off. Okay, now we're going to get on to our little kiddos. So knowing when your child is having an anxiety attack, or maybe you're thinking maybe it's just a tantrum, they won't leave the house, they're freaking out, there's something is happening. We have to talk to our kids about their feelings. We need to let them know that you hear them, but and their feelings are okay to have feelings. We want them to share their feelings. But if they are being destructive, they're being hurtful, they're kicking, screaming, harming themselves or others, that is not tolerable. We need to talk to them about it's okay to have the feelings, but you can't act this way. So sharing their feelings with them is really, really important. You should be doing that daily with your children, daily. Second, boundaries. If you have maybe a middle school or high school, they're like, oh, heck no, I don't need boundaries, but they do. All children need boundaries. If they're living in your house, they need boundaries. They need morning routines. They need nighttime routines. They need to know what they are allowed to do and what they are not allowed to do within your home, as well as at school, with friends, at someone else's house. Children crave, they need boundaries. Next one, physical touch. I am a huge physical touch. And right now, during this pandemic, especially counseling students, it's challenging. Trying to work with families in recovery, it's challenging. I want to look at their body language. I want to put my hands in their hands. I want to touch their face. I want to hug them. And it's very challenging through Zoom. But if you're at home and you're dealing with your kiddos, that physical touch is desperately needed. And I don't care if you have a middle schooler or a high schooler and they're like, don't hug me, don't kiss me. They still need it. Maybe if it's just a squeeze of their hand, maybe if it's just rubbing their shoulder, hands, feet. If you're a foot person, hey, let's do some foot massages. It's a great time to talk to your kids. Hand massages, eye contact, they're desperately needed with our kids. Next one, declutter from screen time. I cannot believe how many kids I see in restaurants on their devices, in cars on their devices. Long trip, totally get it. To the grocery store, to grandma's house, I don't understand it. We need to put a limit on how much time our kids are on media. Kids are crazy right now. They're in Zoom meetings at school, then they're on YouTube, they're on Snap, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram. They're on everything. We need to limit this. I have a great app. If you are a parent, it's called Our Pact, PACT, Our Pact. And what it is, or no, I don't think it's pack like that. I think it's PACK. Sorry. It's an app that you actually have on your phone and it's connected to all of their devices. You then get to allow them, say you give them 2 hours a day. They can't go over 2 hours. It turns off their media. It turns off their phone. It's also a tracking device, but it is a fabulous device. If they do a chore or they do extra work and you say, you know what, I'll give you 15 more minutes. You just take your phone and you add 15 more minutes and their device will work for 15 more minutes. So it's a good punishment, but it's a good reward system, but it also keeps you in control of how much time your child is on social media or a device. And the last one, warnings. Kids need warnings. Hey, you have 10 more minutes and then we're getting ready for bed. We are leaving in 30 minutes to go to grandma's house. Make sure you have blah, 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 blah. Kids freak out when you're like, if you're not organized and you're like, oh my gosh, we're live for piano, let's go. All of a sudden you have just flipped on a switch of anxiousness for your child and they start panicking. So giving them warnings before something's going to happen is so important for our kids, especially the ones who are struggling with anxiety. Okay, here we go. I have a challenge for you. In the next 30 days, let's just work on these 3 things. Or maybe one of the things that you saw in this video that you're like, no, I want to do this one. But the first one, creating 30 minutes of no screens, your time, just journal, talk to another person, go for a walk, just make it your time. Second one, spend 30 minutes with somebody. If they're in your house, you are so blessed to have someone in your house with you right now. Spend 30 minutes with that person talking, not on social media, not watching a movie together, but just engaging with each other. And 3, try a gratitude journal. Write down 5 things each day you're grateful for. It may be the same 5 each day for the 30 days, but that's okay. Be grateful for what you have. Or maybe you want to work on meditating. Like, okay, meditating could be just breathing, could be yoga. It could just be quiet time where you're just working on your breathing and your alone time. But this is my challenge for you. For the next 30 days, try this. Let's see how you do. I would love for you to reach out to me and tell me how you do. So if you were watching this video, I definitely, I've already pre-recorded this, but I have some great apps. I would love to help with it, breathing, with anxiety, with meditation. I've got some great videos from that Dr. John Leone Deloney that I was sharing. I've got some checkoff sheets of things to work on with meditation. And then I've got some grounding. It's a grounding exercise to work with your kids that may be struggling with anxiety. And it's taking them through the five senses of tell me five things that you see, tell me four things that you hear. So I have, it's a checkoff sheet. So if you are interested in any of this, please reach out to me. I will send you the sheets on this. And here's my information. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love some feedback. So leave me a comment, reach out to me on any of my websites or my email or any of my social media. I'd love for you to follow me. And I'm wishing you the best. And I hope you have a great new day.